This is not a step-by-step explanation of adjusting the valves on the Bosch blower. Really, some of the problems you can get into. The first is removing the cover. The cover has 7 screws, 3 which surround the recoil start, top left, top right, and 2 at the bottom. Gently lift out and then raise. When you're inside, you'll come across this cover which covers the carburetors and seals off the engine area. There are 2 T27s on here. 27s are used throughout the Stilh blower. The cover, before it's removed, has to have the ignition connectors lifted. This needs to be done very carefully, otherwise the wires will part from the head. You gently lift these with a broad screwdriver and gently raise them from the connector themselves. Do this carefully, otherwise that will create a problem. Remove the plug cover. These plug covers can become very tight. In effect, the rubber, the silicone, will bond to the plug. So this needs to be removed very carefully. And a small dollop on the plug when it's reinstated of silicone grease, high temperature silicone brake grease. I removed the plug and immediately plugged the hole up with a cloth. Then I lift off the valve cover. Again, T27, these can become quite tight. It won't fall off, it will need to be prized. You prize it from the left hand side and very, very gently work your way round. Don't force the cover off, that can destroy the cork gasket, in which case you'll need the service kit to replace the gasket. It's sold not individually, generally it's in a kit. You can swing the rotor, or the way I prefer it is TDC, top dead centre. So we're in TDC now. Now there are 2 positions. If you can feel wobble and movement, you're in the right stroke. You need to have some movement and you need to feel some space, some rattle, to determine that the engine is in the right position. Rotate the engine till the screwdriver's as far north 12 o'clock as it can go. That's TDC, top dead centre. The feeler gauge is a 0.1mm and it's 4 thou if you're imperial, and it needs to be tapered and pointed, such as this. You can trim it down with wire cutters and then run your thumbnail over it to reduce any bending. And that 0.1mm needs to be quite a tight fit. These always become loose, they never become tight. So there'll be some resistance on this. Now if there is a great deal of slack, or it's too tight, which is unlikely, the adjustment is made with an 8mm spanner. An 8mm ring spanner, decent quality, and it will virtually hold itself on with very little play. If it's loose, you tighten it, and it will only need a few degrees and then you recheck. Once you're happy with the spacing, the gap, turn over 360 and remeasure. Double check it. Assembly is the reverse. You must pay attention. First of all, taking the cover off, you need to ensure that all 7 screws are out, otherwise you can damage the plastic cover. When you're inside, you're going to be very careful removing the contacts. Be ultra careful on removing this and treat the plug with some high temperature brake silicone grease so that it alleviates this problem if you need to remove the plug later on when in operation. And be particularly careful when you're adjusting these. Now you can tighten them, but you're going to use discrepancy over this. Don't just start, if it's very tight, winding it round, because it's a very delicate type mechanism, and although it's will withstand lateral movement, don't push your luck too far. Now you'll be able to service the vehicle, the blower, and with the valves and the clearances set correctly, 0.1 millimetre, 1/10 of a millimetre, you'll find that you'll be able to power it up, because that's an indication that it's not functioning correctly. You're not getting full power out of it, and it will be difficult to start. These are quite temperamental in starting it themselves. In fact, all Stilh machinery I find is difficult to start. To alleviate some of the problem, only use premium petrol, the high octane, 99 octane, and when out of season, drain the machinery. An added point I'd like to mention at this time: if the machinery has been standing for a while, I use a plastic tube. These are found in the squeezy guns for kitchen cleaner, bathroom cleaner. And then I dip that into the 2-stroke mixture with my finger on the top. That will then hold some in this straw, which can then be dropped into the plug chamber, into the combustion chamber. Then, even though the machinery has been sitting, it will then fire up. Otherwise, it's quite a ritual when these machines have been standing for a few months. Hope it's helped.